Good morning, good evening, good day. Wherever you are, stay that way. Keep being here, supporting and showing love. Pelicans Daily presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. You know the program by now. Well, last episode I talked about some free agents that we need to be on the lookout for, and we still got to talk free agents. So a guy that I wanted to bring up, and shout out to the lead and Elijah Paulstein, who wrote a really good article about three players that we, us, the New Orleans Pelicans, should go after. Now the first one, Duke Blue Devil, my guy, GTJ, Gary Trent Jr., Gary Jr., my guy. Shooting guard, small forward for the Bucks this past year. Has enjoyed a very good career so far with the Trailblazers and the Raptors. 6'5", 204. Averaged 11 points, 2 boards, an assist, and a steal a game. But the shooting is right. Is the biggest key. 43% from the field. Okay, but let's talk 42% from three, 84% from the free throw line, and he's a career 14-point scorer on 39% three-point shooting. And in this playoffs this past year, he's averaged 15 a game on 42% three-point shooting. The 3 times he's made the playoffs. So, knowing that we've had issues with shooting, floor spacing, we made the 4th lowest amount of threes. Why not? Why not? His contract's only 2.6 mil, right? You're gonna notice the reoccurring themes. The guys that I'm gonna suggest for us to look at to get in free agency are not gonna break the bank. They're not gonna impact us when we're trying to stack and build, and when the second apron hits. So you gotta think about the financial logistics with this. You had a really big game against the current Eastern Conference champions that, hey, they doing their thing right now up in the NBA Finals. Game 1, insane game. We're going to see what happens later on this weekend. But he put up 9 threes, 37 points, 4 steals on 75% shooting in game 3 to get the Bucks their first win. So, I mean, there's not much other to say without me coming across like just as an overzealous and biased Duke fan. But I mean, this dude has been a baller, been a bucket. Again, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. But he's no slouch if he has to put the ball on the ground. It's not like, he's gonna be like, oh God, what do I do? He kind of, the more I think about it, Khan actually reminds me a bit of him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm surprised that that's not a comparison that they've thrown at him. But I could see a bit of his game, you know what I'm saying, as a player. Now, then that's going to make someone say, well, then why don't we just pick 7 and draft? We're going to see what happens with this draft. I'm just saying, as far as like a guy maybe on like a lower ceiling, because Gary Trent is an all-star, but he's a good starter. He's a guy that's played some big minutes. He's a guy that he's a good contributor, good locker room guy, and he shoots the ball incredibly well from 3. And in today's NBA, you need that. And let's continue on the trend of shooting threes well. But my guy Naz Reid. Now, this one is a little bit more of a dream, more of a overzealous wish, but he is he's likely to decline his player option this offseason. And though he's made it, he's been pretty open about wanting to return to Minnesota, we could likely get him in a sign and trade. Only 15 mil contract. Now, Naz Reid, only 25 years old, 6'9", 264, very, unique size and strength. Center power forward. The brother can handle the ball, shoot the ball, and play a little defense. He's not a lockdown guy, but he's not a slouch either. This past year, he averaged 14 a game, 6 boards, 2 assists, and a block, 46% from the field, 38 from 3, and 78 from the free throw line. And these last 2 years, Naz Reid has been a very big reason why the Timberwolves have become, a miniature borderline powerhouse in the Western Conference. I mean, the Timberwolves, that's competition to us, right? We're going to play more Western Conference teams than Eastern Conference teams. So why not take one of the guys? Why not take someone who is doing well? Why not bring him over and see what he can do with us? His last 2 years in the playoffs, coming off the bench, he's averaged nearly 11 a game, 4 boards, an assist, and a block on 48% from the field, 40 from three, and 73 from the free throw line. I mean, these are really good stats. The rebounding does need to go up, you know what I'm saying? But we've got, we've got Eve, we've got Zion. It's not like we're lacking on the boards. Obviously, that's probably going to be something that then we would look at to maybe get a Kaman or maybe get a Derek Queen. But if we're able to get a Naz Reid, you're able to pair, Zion with someone who's got some size and some length and some 3-point spacing. And then with Eve Missy, same deal. You're able to supplement and support the current pieces there. And then we could, have a very hyper versatile lineup with Naz at the 5, Zion at the 4, Herb at the 3, Trey at the 2, and like DeJounte at the 1. That's a really talented lineup right there. That's a size nightmare for just about any team out there. You know what I'm saying? And he was the 6th man of the year last year. You know what I'm saying? Like he's constantly been elevating and improving. The only guy from the Jelly fam, I don't know if y'all remember, but the Jelly fam, I was watching them coming up in high school. Only one of them to make it to the NBA was a 5-star recruit out of college. I don't know how he went undrafted. It still blows my mind. He had a good year. He had a really good freshman year at LSU, but hey, he's been able to carve his way. He's been able to make an impact for himself. I think he would do really well with us as a player. The prospect of what he could do with the players that we have right now is very tantalizing indeed. So I think, honestly, like, I'm gonna keep picking on him, and I don't want it. But if we had to lose CJ for him, I'm not sad. CJ, it's been an amazing ride. You have done so many amazing things for us, but we got to go in another direction. We got to go a little younger, right? 25 years old, and he's putting up those type of numbers. Imagine, and he's been a 6th man. He's coming off the bench. Imagine what he can do with more consistent minutes. Imagine if somebody goes down and he's got to be a full-time starter. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot more to his ceiling than we are even aware of. So that's just my personal opinion, but I like Naz Reid a lot. Been a big Naz Reid fan for a minute. All right, another young-ish or young, depending on how you look at it. But supporting player that would play a big role. But Ty Jerome. Now, Ty Jerome this past year was the 6th man for the Cavs for that 64-win team. And, unfortunately, they did have, a bit of a disappointing postseason. But Ty Jerome had a really good year. Averaged nearly 13 a game, 3 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and very efficient shooting. Nearly 50-40-90. 52% from the field, nearly 44% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line. Now, in the playoffs, those numbers dropped a bit to 12, 2, and 4 on 40% from the field, 39 from 3, and 85 from the free throw line. But he played a really good series against the Heat. Granted, no one thought the Heat were going to win, but still, right? This is his first playoffs ever. And the Cavs they just had some troubles with the Pacers and with their tenacity, them kind of running them out the gym. But he was 4th in 3-point percentage in the entire NBA. Again, as I said earlier, 3-point shooting is a big weakness. All 3 of these guys that I've listed are amazing 3-point shooters. You know what I'm saying? And all from different positions. Ty Jerome can play 3 different positions. He can play the 2, he can play the point, and he can even play the small forward. You know what I'm saying? He's 27 years old, 6'5", but he's very versatile, and he's able to be put at different spots and have impact. When you have a guy like that who's a Swiss Army knife, it makes your life a lot easier, right? You look at how 2 seasons ago, the Heat. You know what I'm saying? They were able to play with a guy like Jaime Jaquez Jr. Now, obviously, two different stages of their career. Jaime is younger, but just that Swiss Army knife type of player. You know what I'm saying? Able to do a little bit of everything. It always helps to have those type of guys. You know what I'm saying? Now with him, we'd likely have to use our mid-level exception in order to sign him, so that way we don't go over our salary cap. But you know, given we could always use some more scoring off the bench. We could use another ball handler. We could use another guy who can be a shot creator and who can space the floor, pass the ball well. So I wouldn't be opposed to this move either. So yeah, some a lot to think about, a lot to take in, but I think any one of these three guys, or even all three, that'd be a great offseason. You know what I'm saying? There would be a lot to take away from it. All the guys can play defense well, shoot the three, and create if need be. So I'm all for that. But now this one, be ready for this topic. Whoo! Because I talked about KD potentially being traded to us maybe like a month ago, like one of my first episodes. But this article, shout out to our guy, Chris Lambert at Pelican Debrief. But this offer, I'm not going to lie. Whoo! Like in The Godfather. Made him an offer that we can't refuse. This offer to get KD is pretty crazy. I cannot front. I cannot lie. So, we would have to only give up CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, the 7th pick, which that one hurts. But, drum roll, the last player, Herbert Jones. Oh! And that's where they just drive a stake in my heart. That one hurts. Now, that one will be hard. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. To lose Herb would be tough. But gun to my head, crazy, right? Crazy way to frame it. But just gun to my head, you telling me Herb or Trey? I said this last episode. Trey has a slightly higher ceiling with being a little bit younger and his offensive game. Is he going to be at the same level as Herb as a defender? No, but they're not too far off. That just speaks to how talented Trey Murphy is. I would rather keep Trey Murphy as much as possible by any means necessary. Now, let's talk about who we would get along with Kevin Durant. So obviously, the crown jewel, we would get Kevin Durant. Now, granted, this is a Kevin Durant who's 37, but I'm going to throw some numbers in a second. He's still playing at a high level. Get my guy Grayson Allen. I know some people are like, your guy. I question the type of people that you co-sign and stamp. But look, all things aside, Grayson Allen is a hard-nosed player. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he plays a little dirty, but he's unafraid to get out there and take one for the team. He's like a mini Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn. You know what I'm saying? He's unafraid to get in somebody's face. He's unafraid to dive for a loose ball. He's the type of guy that you hate to play against him, but you love to play with him because you know he will do anything to win. But he's also an over 40% three-point shooter for his career. Shot 45% this past year to lead the league. Yeah, my Duke bias is showing, but Grayson has always been a great shooter. Always, right? And a guy like him off the bench or sometimes filling in as a starter, you could do a lot worse. Right? He's average double-digit points for his career. Efficient, doesn't overshoot, picks his spots well. And then we would get the 29th pick. Now, this was a very interesting draft pick when I was looking at like different players that have gotten picked from there. But I'm going to throw some names, right, before I throw the KD numbers that might make y'all go, wait just a minute now. Hold on. So Eddie Johnson, who was a very talented six man in the '80s, one of the original Jamal Crawford type of play, Jamal Crawford, Lou Will, he was picked 29th. Vinny Del Negro, very underrated role player in his day before he became a coach. Tony Kukoc. Speaking of underrated role players, we know, what I'm saying, I forgot to add, but Eddie played for the Kings and the Suns, Supersonics, Hornets, Rockets, and the Pacers. Vinny Del Negro played with the Kings, the Spurs, most notably, the Bulls, Warriors, and Suns. Tony Kukoc played with the Bulls, most notably, won 3 titles from 96 through 98, was the third best scorer between Jordan and Pippen, which, I mean, it's a pretty big fall off. But still, Tony was no slouch. Sixers, Hawks, and Bucks. P.J. Brown, in 92, played for the Nets, Heat, and the Hornets with us in the mid-2000s. Actually was a very solid center for us, Bulls and the Celtics. So he won a championship with the '08 Celtics. Was a all-defensive second team for 3 different times in his career. Josh Howard out of the '03 class. Josh Howard was one of my favorite players of the 2000s that, like, if you was around, then yeah, you know him. But, kids who born like 2010, like, who? But he was a very underrated two-way player. It was an absolute dog at Wake Forest. Loved watching him in college. But he was, an all-star next to Dirk on the Mavs. Was on the Wizards, Jazz, Timberwolves. Another guy that was picked 29. Our guy right now, Mr. DeJounte Murray, picked 29th by the Spurs, and he, was able to turn into an all-star there and with the Hawks, and an all defensive first player, and now we got him. And hopefully he's able to get back to that level that he was at before, but he's obviously got that Achilles injury. But hey, if there's a player who I believe in, that's got that chip on his shoulder, that still wants to prove himself, it's DeJounte Murray. So I believe in DeJounte. I got faith that he's going to come back strong. Then Derek White the next year and pick 20 in the 2017 class. And Derek White is turned into arguably the best 6-man in the league, in my opinion. Right? It's either him or Pritchard. Which, I mean, the Celtics, they've got a nice embarrassment of riches over there, which is why them not making it to the finals is a disappointment. But topic for another time. But he's had a great career. He had a great career with the Spurs, and he's picked it up even more with the Celtics. Been a part of multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearances and a championship. Keldon Johnson, speaking of those Spurs, Keldon Johnson in 2019 picked 29th. You know what I'm saying? The Spurs are trying to figure out who is going to be next to Wemby. Obviously, they got the Rookie of the Year this past year, Stephon Castle. They traded for De'Aaron Fox. They still got Devin Vassell, and then they still got Keldon Johnson. So I mean, the Spurs to me are a team that I think is starting to become something. We gotta watch out for them. I think the Spurs are a team that, I don't care. As long as there's the influence of Coach Pop, you can never count them out. And they were a borderline playing team before Victor, before Victor went down with the blood clots. So imagine him coming back fully healthy. He's gonna be a defensive player of the year candidate. That's a dangerous team. That's a very dangerous team. And oh, of course they're in our division. But hey, pressure bust pipes and competition brings out the best. I got faith in our guys, but that, a guy like Keldon Johnson, Julian Strawther for the Nuggets, he's turned into a very solid off the bench scorer, shooter. Had a good career at Gonzaga. He's been a very underrated role player from off the bench. And then Isaiah Collier, who was on the all-rookie second team for the Jazz from this past draft. He was the top guy of his class at one point. Went to USC, didn't necessarily light the world on fire, but still was a first-round guy. And he had a very good rookie year. Averaged 9.5 points, 3 boards, and 6 assists. So I think the Jazz, they're figuring out who's going to be there, who's going to be a cornerstone. I think they need to give Isaiah Collier a good opportunity because he showed improved very well as a point guard, and then he was more of a scorer coming out of high school. So, long story short, pick 29 is not all bad. That's a very balanced assortment of different players, ranging from all-star third option on a top tier championship team to top defenders to to good shooters good shooters, first couple guys off the bench. So all is not lost. I don't want us to lose pick 7. You know what I'm saying? Divinely right, 7's God's number. So I got a feeling that if we stay at pick 7, we're gonna get someone special. But then too, this is a deep draft. There's a lot of great young talent. So I would love for us to be able to bring someone in the fold who is ready, but also has that long-term potential to be a cornerstone. But we got to talk about my man Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant this past year averaged 27, 6, 4, a block on 53% shooting, 43% from the 3, and 84 from the free throw line. Now, I know the Suns didn't go to the playoffs, but those numbers are crazy. KD has been in the league since 2007. 2007. He's about to be 37 years old. 37-year-olds should not be putting up numbers like that, right? And since his Achilles injury, the last 4 years, he has averaged 28, 7, 5 assists, a steal, a block on 53% from the field, 42 from 3, and 88 from the free throw line. Those numbers are absolutely ridiculous, insane. I'm in disbelief. 28, 7, and 5 at 37? The only one doing that is Bron. And Bron this past year, this is the first year he didn't average at least 25 since his rookie year. So Kevin Durant is in a category of his own, especially at his age. Look, I don't want us to give up Herb. I love Herb, man. Herb is my guy. Me and Herb are the same graduating year, so it's like we could have been in high school together. We could have been teammates. I could have thrown Herb a lob in high school ball. But this trade package, what a trade package. What a trade package. And the Suns would be very inclined to do it. They get a guy like CJ McCollum who could step in right now, be a good veteran leader for them, be a guy that you put, they're going to have to figure out. It might get a little redundant having CJ and Bradley Beal, but they'll figure that out. They'll figure out how that all works out. But then they get a young defensive cornerstone in a Herb, right? They get Herb, who is younger than most of the players on the roster. They get a cornerstone in him. They get Kelly Olynyk, who's a proven veteran big. And they get a top pick to pick a guy that they feel like, after Booker and next to a guy, some of the young guys like Ryan Dunn, for instance, right? They can get a franchise guy for them. So everybody wins in the end. And we still get a first round pick in this draft. Yes, albeit second to last pick, but I named a good assortment, a good amount of players that came from that. You know what I'm saying? So all in all is not lost. And KD right now, you put him in a lineup with Eve, with Zion. So Eve, Zion, KD, Trey, and either DeJounte or CJ. Come on, man. That's at least a 5th seed. Yes, you heard it first. At least a 5th, 6th seed. And if they click even further, they stay healthy and they're able to keep some of the young guys on the bench as scorers. Dude, who knows? But we might do something crazy. We might just do something crazy. If OKC loses this finals, it's going to change the Western Conference as well because everyone's kind of been expecting, okay, this is OKC's time to just become that new dynasty, become what Golden State was in the 2010s, become what the Lakers were in the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? Everyone is expecting OKC to make that leap. But if not them, who's next? Right? Houston, they're trying to figure out who their number one scorer is, right? Because they've got a lot of young talent, but they have to figure out who is their go-to guy. Golden State, you still got Steph, you still got Draymond, they got Jimmy, but they're older. Can they make another run? Minnesota, Ant is incredibly talented, one of the most talented young players in the game, one of my favorite players to watch right now, but he's not quite there yet as far as to be a championship level player. I just don't, unfortunately, I don't fully see it, right? But he's going to get there eventually. But, you know what I'm saying, they're trying to figure out their personnel so they can take that leap. Memphis, it looked like they were going to be that team a couple of years ago, but due to some of the off-court stuff and injuries, and just he looked a little out of he looked a little out of it this past year, and I think that's part of why Coach Jenkins got his pink slip. But Ja Morant, those Grizzlies, I mean they're not. I'm a huge Ja fan. You know what I'm saying? Huge Zion and Ja fan. You know what I'm saying? They're both guys that are my age range, so I watched them a lot in their come up. And shout out to them Spartanburg boys. But like they didn't take that leap. So I say this all to say, and then like the Lakers, right? The Lakers, yes, they still got Bron, they got Austin Reeves, and now they've got Luka to be their number one, but they need some more defenders around Luka. You know what I'm saying? They need to figure out who's gonna be that third option once LeBron retires. And is Austin Reeves a number two on a championship winning team? Don't know. So I say this all to say is that the West is a lot more open than people realize. In fact, I would go as far to say is that this finals proved that within the NBA as a whole, it's a lot more open than we all, are realizing. Because everybody, right, preseason had certain teams projected and expected to do well, right? I was over here thinking that Philly was going to be a top team in the East. And I was very wrong. So that just is proof that hindsight is 20/20. You don't know until the season kicks off and the ball is tipped in the air. Kevin Durant at this age is still a top 10 player. I don't care what nobody says. You cannot tell me there are 10 players in the game right now better than Kevin Durant. Numbers, film, all that does not lie. And he's one of the greatest scorers of all time, one of the greatest small forwards of all time, one of the most talented bucket getters that I've ever seen. I still have faith that KD could finish his career with another ring. I hope he's able to. And just imagine if KD goes to the Pelicans and wins a ring with us. Imagine the narrative around his career, because people look at his 2017 and 2018 championships as cheap and hollow rings, even though it's like, yo, you know how hard it is to win a ring? Like I don't know why people act like you could just throw anybody up on those Warriors teams and they were going to win. You know what I'm saying? As dominant as they were, there was a reason why the Cavs won in 2016. There was a reason why the Cavs were competitive with them in 2015 with Kyrie being hurt, with Kevin Love being hurt. Okay, this idea that the Warriors were this impenetrable force that could be beaten. They got beaten in 2019. Granted, yes, they had a lot of injuries. Context has to be provided, but the point is, nothing is for certain. And when you got a player like KD, he's one of those type of for certain players. You saw how dominant the Warriors were in 2017, 2018. That was historical. You could argue it's the dominance in that for why the NBA created went through the second bargaining agreement to create the second apron. Because they were like, under no circumstances could we ever let something like this happen again. But KD coming over to New Orleans, right? We don't have championship pedigree. We don't have a history. But imagine if he's able to finish his career holding up that Larry O'Brien trophy in Smoothie King Arena. Hey, man, that would be quite the way to end his storied career, quite the way to close the chapter one of the greatest careers that I've seen in my life. So, little something to think about. But this offer, again, like The Godfather, this might be the one that we can't refuse. If this offer comes on the tape on President Dumar's desk, it would behoove him to think this one through. Because, it'd be so hard not to. It would be hard not to. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, I think all those guys that I just named as far as free agent signings would be great to get. And if we could get them too, our team is looking kind of dangerous. Our team is looking kind of nice. And the Western Conference is a little more open if OKC can't put it all together. I got OKC in 6, but we going to see. It's going to be a game-by-game thing, especially with a team as scrappy like the Pacers. But with those Pelicans, our goal is to get our small market swag up like that. And I got faith that we can. But it matters about personnel. It matters about culture. So, hey, stay tuned. We going to see. But that's going to be it for today. I really appreciate y'all for the support. I appreciate y'all rocking out. Make sure to keep liking, sharing, subscribe to Pelicans Daily. Make sure to follow Fan Arch on all social media platforms. And then follow your boy on the gram, Dylan_Bruton10. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me, walk with me. We on this journey together. I appreciate y'all as always. Keep it up with the great dialogue in the comment section. Y'all stay blessed and amazing. Keep doing what's good. And this Pelicans ball, it's a changing of the guard. A new era and a new day is upon us. Stay tuned for more. Ciao.